Everybody, how you doing? This is Bryce from Victims Victor to Victors. How we tell our stories, how we overcome our trials, tribulations, and torments, and how we overcame. So you know that you're not alone, and you too can become a victor as well. Today's guest,
Amen.
today's guest. I don't even know if we can speed up to her level. Quite frankly, I messaged her. She's like, "Hey, I'm getting home. I'm just finished football." I'm like, "Football? Like, what you mean football?" It's like tackle. I'm like, tackle football. And, she's a Marine. Because once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. Apparently, you just never stop being a Marine. Apparently.
You earn that title. You
There
never
you go.
lose it.
And so we got a woman today that she is defying all odds. She ain't stopping for ain't nobody, and truly, truly a victor in her life, and truly understanding, letting her daughter know that you ain't a victim, little girl. You gonna rise to any occasion that comes before you. Today, Krista, how are you doing?
I am doing amazing. Very blessed. Blessed beyond blessed.
Man, when somebody says you's a Marine, right?
Hmm.
You get a different connotation to the person, right? You get a mindset already. It's like, boop, it's different. It's not normal. It's not ordinary. And when I say, okay, you football, man, why shit crazy? I ain't even playing football. That's wild. And then you get all these like workout, things on your IG, and you doing this rodeo with your daughter, and you running through the hills, and you doing this and doing that. I'm like, where is the chinks in this girl's armor, man? Like she just a freight train going 100 miles an hour, ain't nothing stopping her, and she got everything put together now. And and then when you start to look and you see smiles, you see, so I look at smiles and eyes because for me, being a victim in my past, you know what certain smiles looks like. You know what certain eyes look like, and when somebody has pain, hurt, um, really a victim situation in their life, their eyes are different and their smiles are different. There's two smiles. There's one, I'm going through this shit right now. Please help me. And then there's the other one, like, damn, you don't know who the fuck I am. You understand me? Because this smile is some power behind this. And you started speaking, I was just like, oh Lord Jesus. Oh Jesus, there's some power right here, Lord. And and you powerful, you strong, but it's also why? Why are you so powerful? Why are you so strong? Because you're a strong mama bear now, but why? But why? And so today
I
we getting into that
honestly,
one today, boy.
honestly, God became my leaning post. I
Mm,
went through a lot of things, and I was raised in the way that I should go, and it's very true. And I learned that through my journey, as I raise my daughter, and I make declarations, and I say, I declare that I will raise my daughter in the way that she shall go, and she will never depart from it.
amen.
And I used to say it, and then sometimes it's things all they start off just being said, and then as you say it more, you start to understand it more, and God reveals more to you, and the Spirit just speaks to you more and more, and then before you know it, you're saying it with conviction, like no weapon
Mm,
will ever can, and you start declaring things. And then when certain things happen, you're like, no,
mm,
pause,
mm.
devil, kick rocks.
Yes,
No, no, I am going to raise her in the way she shall go, so she shall never depart from that.
yes.
And in that being said, I realized that that's the way that I was. Because I was, would you like to say hi?
Hello.
Okay, let's go. And so, and no, you may not hear. Excuse you. Go. Andy Griffith, food, go. So, so it's one of those things where it raising her has taken me back to that like that, me stating that over her and makes me realize certain little things like, oh, well, I was raised in the way that I should go. Did it last long? No, it did not. But I was raised enough
Mm-hmm.
in the way that I should go, and I didn't depart from it. I might have
Yeah.
taken a 5 year, 10 year detour,
Hey
or
now.
a 5 year detour, and then slightly come back, and then
Yeah, yeah.
something happens, and the
Yeah.
enemy attacks you, and then you take another detour, and then
Yeah.
finally, but God will use certain things, and if you choose to look at just the negative of it, it can't be used like to benefit you. So you have to look at things in a light of, because and know that no matter what happens, everything good comes from God. Anything
Yeah.
bad does not come from him.
Amen.
And then, but what he will do,
Mm.
if that bad comes to you, is he will take that bad and he will use it for your good. But
Yes.
you have to be able to see that and
Mm-hmm.
receive that. And that's the hardest part, is people
Yes.
don't receive it because they focus so much on the negative or the bad thing that happened,
Mm.
that, and that's where the enemy wants you to be,
Facts.
because it's a battlefield of the mind. So if you're thinking only in that spot, you're
Yep.
like, oh man, like with the weather, the inclement weather, man, I can't get out, I can't do anything. I could have sat here and felt like I don't know anybody. And trust me, there's things like I did battle that, because it's like nobody's calling, nobody's doing this. And then I have to think, well, Crystal, there's a reason you have prayed. Remember, you have prayed that God remove
Mm.
that which needs to be removed from your life, whether it's
Mm.
people, places, or things.
Yes.
And then, so now what I say is, when I pray for that, I'm like, God, thank you for introducing me to who I need to be introduced to.
Hey.
Thank you for delivering me from who
Yeah.
I need to be delivered from. And
Yes.
thank you for the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding that
Mm.
when you remove something from my life, I don't try to hold on to it because I don't understand.
Ah.
Because a lot of times he'll try to remove people from your life, and you yourself are trying,
Yes.
holding on so hard because you're afraid. It's kind of
Mm.
like that. I saw a little, there's that cartoon meme or whatever, where
Mm.
God's Jesus is standing in front of a little kid, and she's got a little tore up teddy bear, like this, just raggedy,
Yeah.
and she's like, but I don't want to give it to you. And he's like, trust me, my child. And behind his back, he's got this brand new, bigger,
Hey.
better
Yeah.
bear. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just hold on so tight, and then it causes, and that's where your detour starts, because you stop trusting. So your detour, like, and he can always get you back onto that path that he has set for you,
Ooh.
but it might just take a little bit of time now.
That's the
And
truth.
then you're like, but then if you start to think about that, you're like, man, where would I have been 5 years ago if I would have listened at that turning point? It wouldn't have taken me this long. Well, thank you for the lessons, but now I can use those negatives that happened to me. Now
Mm.
that my mind is right and I'm focused, I can use those negatives to help other people, so they don't have to take a 5 year detour. They don't have to take that detour. They don't
Facts.
have to look out for that caution tape,
Golly, yes. So,
So
man, that's the
you can
truth.
bless other people in that aspect. So
Let's start at the
it's
beginning,
yeah.
man. Let's start at the beginning. When you were, say, 15, right? Who were you when you were 15? Me and you sitting inside of math class. I probably wouldn't be too much studying. So, me and you, math class. What's happening? Where you at?
Oh my goodness, at 15. Well, I didn't have my license yet, even though that was me sneaking the car, driving around the neighborhood. I
Oh,
didn't go like anywhere that I wasn't supposed
yeah.
to go, but I was like, and I came up with this idea. Well, I have my permit, and Tracy's got her permit. Doesn't that equal a license? Like half and half. My dad's like, no,
Like, no, not really.
that's your that's your one freebie, and if you pull that crap again, you're
Yeah.
gonna just not like your life anymore. So
Yeah.
that was my one freebie. But I was at that point in time in my life, I was at gymnastics all the time.
Oh,
So I
shit.
went from school to gymnastics, home, school to gymnastics, home,
Oh,
and that was it. But that was also a turning point in my life too, because we had a fire at our house, and then we had all split, actually. My entire family My two younger brothers each went to their own friend's house. My dad went somewhere else. My mom went somewhere else, and I went to a different friend's house.
Oh wow.
And um, until we could figure out, because of the fire, the owners of the house, the duplex, they
Mm.
sold it, and then somebody else said, okay, well, both tenants, you guys are evicted, and
Oh
you guys have to find another, because we have to gut it, we're going to remodel, we're going to do
yeah.
everything. So we lost our home. That's fine.
Can I watch
Yes.
Dino Dina?
Yes, you may, but keep it down. So we ended up, we lost the home, but we all kind of split. My family dynamic was, my dad, amazing man,
Mm.
in the fact that he, very good morals, very good values, very good work ethic.
Nice.
He was born in 55, so there was the whole racial aspect of it.
Definitely.
But he is what you would call an Uncle Tom. People would call him an Uncle Tom. But I look at it not in a negative. I look at it like, okay, what's going to get me the best leg up? And if I talk a certain way, if I conduct myself a certain way, is that going to get me the job, or is that not going to set me up for success? And so it's not like, oh, I changed my voice to sound white
Mm.
or sound, you know,
Ooh, I hated that. Oh.
whatever. And
Mm.
and that's not what it is. My dad, for example, we were listening to the Jackson 5 in the car,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
High school, right? Come along, listen to Jackson 5, and he's singing along, and he says, ask you a question in the song. And I was like, axe. And I was thinking like an axe. Because, right? I grew up in Oregon, okay? So I was like an axe. I was like, axe? Like, what is he saying? And my dad's like, he's saying ask,
Yeah.
but it's lazy talk. It's lazy. And then I was like, X, X. And he said, don't you dare.
Yes.
You do not even get to start that. And it wasn't
Mhm.
about not embracing a culture or a demographic or whatever. It was about conducting yourself to
Mm.
set yourself up professionally for when I got into the real world. Like,
Oh.
are you going to go in there? And Creflo said the same thing. He goes, are you going to go into a job interview with a high yellow suit on or something? Like, conduct yourself professionally,
Yeah, exactly.
because that's what people want. They want responsible people. If you happen to have an accent, then you have an accent, but you still conduct yourself accordingly. You
Yeah.
don't go in there looking all ghetto or sounding ghetto. And ghetto could be redneck too,
Almost.
so it's
Most definitely.
like, it just, ghetto means not professional.
Agreed.
Okay,
Agreed.
let's just go
Agreed.
there with that.
Agreed.
So it's one of those things. And he was like, you will pronunciate, you will enunciate. Like, people literally, I used to tease people and be like, yeah, um, you know, they think that I was white on the phone, and then they'd meet me.
I get
Well,
the
okay.
same thing. By God. And my name
But
is Bryce.
people can understand, but
Come on.
and I look at it at that time though, you're certain parents, like, he just didn't succumb to, okay, this is what I'm like, this is the lifestyle I have to live,
Hmm.
just like I was raised here. No, I'm going to provide better some way, somehow, no
That's
matter what. It doesn't mean more money. It didn't mean brighter, shinier things, but just educationally, morally, values, like that, it was great. Now, where he was lacking was the affection part and the love
right.
aspect of it. So
Yeah.
that wasn't really there, as like, if I got into trouble or something happened, like, there was no understanding, to the point to where my dad even now is like, he's like, you play football?
You're like,
he's
really?
like he's like, what's with you and all these extreme sports? You've got motorcycles, there's football, you do all this other stuff. Like,
Motorcycles
I'm like,
too?
yes, I ride motorcycles.
Oh,
He's like,
geez.
what's wrong with you? And I'm
God.
like, well, I'm still a girl. He wanted the girly girl. I'm still feminine. I'm still a female.
Yeah.
I just am not, like, I don't have to do, like, that's not my priority. And honestly, I would rather be that way, because that's all superficial. Like, I can
Mm.
make myself look like something,
Oh, most
but
definitely.
inside I can be a total opposite, and not, like, okay, I can have the look that you want,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean my character's going to be good. That
You
means
know,
I'm self-absorbed at something,
so, I knew a girl that
so.
she played rugby, and
Hmm.
she but during the week she would have like a short skirt on, high heels, nails done, hair done, all the makeup comes.
Man, you should see some of the girls on the football team. Lashes out to like wherever. I'm like, how do you? What is going on? Like, her
She would,
name is her like in my head, because I'm learning everybody's name. I'm like, that's Lashes. That's like I'm like I'm like that one's real. Like, and then I can't use that too much because there's a couple of they have like some severe lashes on. And I asked one day, and I was like, what, like why,
why,
And
why are you doing that to
she
yourself?
goes, she goes, well, she goes, well, they're like, it's the way I came up with it in my mind. They're individual visors. So like they block. So they so instead of one like a baseball cap and one visor, like you get individual ones.
Yes.
Because she's like, because they do. She's like, they block the sun, they catch like whatever particles and things like that. And I was like,
What the fuck? But
okay, okay, that's all you. That's all you.
do you?
I'm good.
So
So yes.
so from
So it, but yeah, so back to the 15 years old, like
yeah,
it was that was a turning point in my life. I did kind of start going downhill after that. I didn't feel very accepted or loved. My mom was gone. She was a reservist in the Marine Corps, but she worked a lot. My dad was always gone. So it was just me and my brothers. And then I was always at gymnastics. So if it wasn't for gymnastics, I would have been like a real lost cause. And
like
it
real.
really would have been a detour, to try to come back from. But yeah, I was the kid that come along 16. I hung out with all the stoners, never got high, but I was one.
Yeah.
They no nobody ever let me do it because I was a gymnast, and they're like, no, you're
Oh,
going someplace in life. So I got to hang out, and I got to be
you
like
still part cool.
associated,
You
and
still the
I
cool
would,
club.
and so I would skip school sometimes, and I would skip school, and then I would um, drive everybody, you know,
Yeah,
while they're smoking and stuff. And then that was that. But I never partook in anything. And that was my extent of, you know,
that life. Yeah.
going. I was like, oh, because it attracted me because I was accepted. It was that whole acceptance
Yeah.
thing because I didn't feel accepted. Now, as obviously as you get older and you realize, do I God accepts me, and that's really the only person that matters.
Yeah.
That is the only person, and then he will fix. And once you start to realize, he'll take people out of your life that need to be removed. So you don't need to try to conform. And what was it? Creflo was just saying it the other day. Actually, I have it right here where he was saying, you don't you basically don't. I have so many things.
That's
it's
good
it's
though.
it's
That's good.
it's a it was Romans 12 1 and 2, and verse 2 says, do not be conformed to this world,
Girl, but
but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So
yes.
don't become like the world. Transform your mind, renew your mind, study the word, study that which is for, like, of him for you, and
That's right.
everything's gonna be prosperous. You can sit there, look, struggling financially. Thank you, Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
for providing financial independence, for
Mm-hmm.
financial security, and for financial, prosperity.
Yes.
And then when I don't even know how I'm going to pay for the next rodeo, something comes up and it's like, okay, and it's just enough. And I don't want to do that forever. I
Yeah.
want to be able to give to somebody else in need,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to do the work that God needs me to do right now because I was so far off on a detour. And so now I'm building myself back up. The old has finally been washed away
And
and you know is gone,
yeah.
and I have to realize that goes for like any anger, any hatred, any, I have to forgive. And forgiveness I learned from because I forgave. And like I said before, sometimes it just starts off as words. Well, I forgive him for this. I forgive those that hurt me in the Marine Corps. I forgive them. And then something will happen and then it will bring up that thought, and you're like, oh, well, I guess I didn't really fully forgive them. So then you really think about it, and then you put yourself in those shoes too, and you say, hey, well, I deserved forgiveness. I didn't deserve forgiveness, but I was forgiven. Oh, well,
Yeah.
I did some pretty awful things. You got to put yourself in, like, what did you do? And you were able to be renewed.
Yeah.
So once again, that's where the enemy comes in and says, yeah, but if you do that, then you're giving them, you're telling them it's okay. Well, that's a lie, because just because you
That's
forgive somebody doesn't mean that it's okay what they did.
right.
Doesn't mean you actually have to even be friends with them or talk to them anymore. It doesn't mean it just means that you let go of that. And there's times when I come up and I'll start to feel a certain type of way, and I don't even know how I'm feeling. I just know that it's not good and it's not from God. So
Mhm.
I will stop what I'm doing and I'll be like, God, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I give it to you right now. I don't
Hey,
want it. It
yes,
doesn't feel good. It
yes,
doesn't feel
yes.
good. So please just take it away. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be upset. And then once I really started doing that, then I was like, I really genuinely forgive that person, because they have pain.
Hurt
Hurt
people.
people,
Yeah,
whether it's intentionally or unintentionally.
so true.
They will hurt people. And, you know, I've done it. I've done it. And all I can say is that I ask God to forgive me of that. And I am sorry if I ever hurt anybody, you know, because I was hurting too. And that's not fair for me to take my hurt and my anger out on, but that's also growth. And you got to learn that. And you guys, and that doesn't mean just because I forgave them suddenly, you know, oh, they're a great person. No, they're
Nah.
still toxic. They can still stay over there, but I forgive them for what they did, so it no longer controls me, and I can now move forward
Mhm.
and do something better with myself and receive more blessings that God has for me to be prosperous in this life, continue to break cycles
Mhm.
for my daughter and myself. It's not just for her. And I came to that realization too.
Nice.
It's not just breaking cycles for her, but it's a breaking cycles for me. And
Yes.
in order to break cycles for her, I have to break certain cycles.
So true.
And then
So true.
those chains, and I don't say, God, break those chains. I say, disintegrate those
Mm.
chains, like dissolve them. Like they are, like I'm very, like words have power. And if you're going
Power.
to say something, look, things that are broken can get put back together at some point in time. So if a chain can be broken, the enemy's going to try to make you think that he put
Right.
that chain right back around you. So guess
Mhm.
what? I'm going to go ahead and let that just chain like disintegrate.
The gone.
And I say, I plead the blood over my whole entire body. So
Mhm.
the devil can't get a foothold, a toehold, a hair hold, and any type of,
Yep.
he'll slip right off. Actually, he
Yes.
won't even get near, because it's like a fortress, a force field. He gets too
Yes.
close. It's
Yeah.
like zap, zap,
Yep.
get away from me. You get
Yes.
nothing, So I
Yes.
I go a little bit beyond.
Hey,
I'm like,
you got to,
no,
man. You got to,
like go away
for sure.
and stuff. So it's yeah.
When did you yeah, don't worry. When you said your mama was in the Marine Corps, the reserves, correct?
Both my parents were Marines.
Oh, okay.
So my dad did 4 years in the Marine Corps, and this is where a lot of his, like, I didn't even know. Okay, hilarious story, really fast.
Yeah.
So my dad used to have us do field day at the house, right?
Yeah.
And most people know field day as a fun day at school.
Yeah, yeah, of
No,
course.
no, 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 no. No. Field day means you clean the entire house. You field day the whole entire house. Everything gets
Whole
cleaned,
day.
right?
Oh man.
So so we would do that. And so I didn't realize why my dad ate the way he did until I went to boot camp. And then I realized, oh, this is why he mixes all his food together and eats the way he does. I didn't realize like why we cleaned once a week the way we did. Went to boot camp and then got in the Marine
Oh.
Corps. You have field day once a week. You get your room, you inspect it, because you have to thoroughly clean it, because
Yeah.
there's some nasty like pigs, right? You're like, what? Well, not everybody was taught how to clean, okay?
Yes.
Apparently. So just so there's that. And then, and then I was on the rifle range
Mm.
in its second phase, and so in the morning they wake you up, right? They turn the lights on, everybody, get up, get up, get up. up, and they just cause a bunch of like chaos, right? And you got
Yeah.
to get up and you got to learn how to function under chaos and pressure and focus, right? So we're doing all of this, right? So we get to to the rifle range, and the drill instructor comes out one day, and she turns the light on, turns around, and walks right back into her duty hut. Doesn't say one word. She was so tired. Doesn't say one word. And I sat up and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's where he got it from." My dad used to, my dad used to come into my room in the morning, and he would flick my light on and say, "It's time to get up," and he would turn around and walk out. And then one day he stopped saying anything at all. He just come in, turn the light on, turn around, and walk out. And I just thought it was my dad, like just being,
Just my
the way
dad.
he is. Like,
Yeah.
all right, I guess it's just time to get up. Like, no interaction. Like, no hello,
Yeah.
no good morning. How you feel? Like, I love
None of that.
you. Like, none of that. No,
Just
time to get up. Let's go. The day is starting. Let's go. Like, get
all
up.
right. I'm
You got to
sorry.
get your shower. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
it just is what it is. It wasn't anything bad and it wasn't anything good. Man, when I got there, she did that. And I was like, what in the world?
That's what it was.
But there's a lot of, that's exactly what I did. Like, it was instant. It
You know,
came over me. I was like,
couple
whoa.
couple weeks ago, I interviewed a guy. I believe he's a sergeant in the army. He's a supply
Hmm.
technician. There's a big old long name, but basically a supply guy. And what's it called? And he was saying that he was originally going to the Marine Corps.
Uh-huh.
And when he went, so he was doing like, I guess like there was like an ROT, like an ROT something or other that
ROTC.
yeah, everybody was like together in the Air Force, Navy, Army, Marines for like one
Yeah.
thing. And they got as the Army, the Marine Corps line went in for their food, the Air Force, the Marine, all these guys went for their food. And what's it called? The Marines were in. They went in. They just shut everything and just start shoveling down the food. And he was going to be a Marine, right? So
Hmm.
that's what he was doing. And then he looked to his right. And he looked to his left, and he's seen these guys, the Army guys, were like just chilling, just straight chilling, just eating their food like normal. And he's like, "Why aren't you guys hurrying up?" And he's like, "Because we in the Army, man, we don't do any of that stuff. Like, we got an hour to eat."
Plug it in down here. Plug it in. Yeah.
He was saying that we get an hour to eat. He's like, an hour? He's like, yeah, man. Like, y'all get like 20 minutes. That's the Marines, man. He's like, I'm assigned to y'all. So he switched. So he switched and he went straight Army. And he was just like, I ain't doing this. Like 20 minutes to eat and you guys get an hour. And there's other time he was,
Hand it up through the
him
tape.
and his buddies were talking, like when they were fully in the Army and stuff. And
Uh-huh.
apparently, you guys do like drills and like work that you guys are like together, right? And
Uh-huh.
so there was him and his group of army guys, and then a
Thank
couple
you.
Marines just like off the way. And he's like, "Hey, you think we could take them? You think we could take these guys? Like, there's like three of them. There's like eight of us. Like, we could take them. It's the Marines. Like, and and his buddy was like his family or something was in the Marines, and he's like, no, no, the Marines are different. They
There's a certain level of crazy that comes out in a situation like
and
that. Like, it's
the
all good.
let me finish with one thing. Watch this. And it comes to what you're saying. And so the female Marine was like 5'2", comes over, what you say? What you say? You think you can take us? You want it? And she just went ape shit, he said. And he's just like, mm. And he's like, all these guys are from the hood. So like they know crazy, but this was a different level. Like this was not a normal person. And he was looking at the Marine guys like, yo, can you get this one? Like, can you? He's like, hey, you started it. And so he's like, the mindset is
It
different.
is.
It's so different. And and then when I see you like working out, doing all this stuff, I'm like, that's a Marine right there. That's what that is. That's
She
not
does
normal.
push-ups when she gets in trouble. It's like she does push-ups or
The
she does
daughter?
burpees. Yeah.
Yo, I
She's
seen that one when she was doing burpees. I was like, yo, my girl, what you doing? Like it was nothing
she
that
does them for fun. She likes them. She would rather do burpees than push-ups. So when I was
Father
growing
God, I
up,
just rebuke all this
so
kind
when
of
I
crazy stuff.
no, no, it instills discipline. But
that
see,
that
I've learned to balance it. So, and that's one thing. Okay, so that's one thing. If I get too much and to going too much, God will do something and be like, pump your brakes. You need to
Yeah,
spend a little time, love her, nurture her.
she's
You
not a
know,
Marine yet.
let's like bring it down a couple notches. Like she's only 5, Crystal. She's only 5.
She's only 5 and she likes to do burpees. What the heck?
So, well, you understand. So when I was pregnant, I did jujitsu until I was 6.5 months pregnant. And then I did judo until I was about 7 months pregnant. And I worked out the entire time up until about 8 months pregnant when I finally sat down and said, y'all go ahead. I'm going to sit here and watch some Hulu. And then she came a week early. And I only pushed 16 times. And she was like, hello, I'm here. And then when she did get here, she did like this huge stretch and her whole back was like, tick, 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 tick. It was like she's just one little ball of muscle.
Mama, what you be doing?
She was trying to lift her head the very first day, like within hours of being born, like trying to lift her head up. And yeah, I thought it was normal.
Like, that's what's supposed to happen.
Somebody else was like,
We's
no, this is
Marines.
not
Okay,
normal.
who's
I was
different?
like, well, I don't know. I thought it was normal.
Golly.
But yeah, so my dad was in the Marine Corps. He did his active duty time and then got out. And then my mom, she was in the Marine Corps. She did her active duty time, but then instead of getting out, she went reserve. And so then she retired as a reservist.
Nice.
And then I went in, and then my youngest brother went in as well.
So Marines.
There's out of 5, there's 4 out of 5 of us. 4 out of the 5 family members.
Just a family Marines. This is not really a place you just want to kick in that dough. Like, you in trouble. You in big trouble. Like, you kick it. Whoa, we get that fun now.
Right. No.
Have you ever watched those guys? Was it? Oh man. Oh, I'm gonna forget now. But it's like they're teamed up with Black Rifle Coffee. Article 11, Article 12.
Article 15.
Yeah, bro. They do their
Matt Best.
skits. Yes.
Matt Best in this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, when they do their skits and like somebody kicks in their door, they're like, yes, and they pick up like their toys and like, woo! It's just like, oh my god, it's like, thank you, you picked the right house today.
Right. I have a sign that is outside. So I kind of battle between like wanting things to be incognito, but at the same time, there's like little things that I like to put out there and stuff. And so one thing that's sitting outside of my house, it's not like far away where it's supposed to be, because I haven't found a place to put it up.
Yeah.
But before, it used to be like on my front gate. So before you even came close to the house, it was on the front gate. But it said warning. It says warning. Something about Marines and their rifles. If you can read this, and the print gets smaller and smaller. So by the time you get to the bottom, it says if you can read this, you're within range. And so basically, it's like this warning. There's somebody here that you probably like. If you're thinking of something stupid, please don't, because you're within range right now. So hey, back on up and try a different house.
Just back on up. Back that ass.
Yeah. So the little things like that, but I'm not the whole. I have a flag out there, but I think that's about as much as I'll go. Like my mom, on the other hand, is like motard. And that's what we call a retarded amount of motivation is a motard. Because it's like retarded.
Your mom's like motivated. You too?
What?
Your mom's like you too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
I'm actually, my mom, well, not as bad. Not as bad. My mom's like, you would kind of look at her sometimes and be like, wait, you were in the Marine Corps? You kind of procrastinate a lot. Like, and then there's times I'm like, Mom, I need the Marine in you to come out right now. But then sometimes it like comes out like at the weirdest opposite, like at the weirdest times. And I'm like, huh. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'm like, hey, can you research for this for me? She's like,
I got you.
She was in office. Yeah, she was in office. I think she was admin and stuff like that. I was not. I did water purification. I did the Marine Corps martial arts instructor. I was a black belt instructor for that. And then I did weapons training. I was a rifle and a pistol coach. I did combat conditioning specialists. I did like cross training with the electricians, operators. I did some security work for the personal security detail stuff. I was attached to a grunt unit at one point in time and did all their McMap training as
Yeah.
well, and got
Well,
to go out on
I
some
seen,
security
seen
details with them.
I seen your
So
little
I
video
was like, yeah,
that you said I really really wanted to be attached to the grunt unit. I was like,
yeah.
chill. Why? like,
I got along with them. Honestly, my mentality and my thought process and my so there's two there's two types in the Marine Corps, and you're either a pogue or you're a grunt. So a pogue is person other than grunt. So you're a pogue, and a pogue basically is a support unit
okay. Yeah.
personnel. So you do admin, you do like I had utilities. So and within utilities, there's water purification, there's electricians, there's the refrigeration mechanics and stuff like that. Then you've
Yeah.
got your supply clerks and supply officers. You've got your motor T operators, but you got your motor T mechanics. You got your heavy equipment operators. You got your heavy equipment mechanics. You've got your combat engineers, and combat engineers is comprised of a couple different things. You've got, they're combat engineers, and so one side of the house it does construction work and builds things, and the other side builds bridges and blows things up, and
Oh
stuff. And it
shit.
just depends on what unit you're with. It
Yeah.
depends. So if you're with a support unit, you don't do the bridge building and the blowing up and the stuff like that. You
Mm.
don't that's not part of it unless you're part of a ground unit and stuff. And then so these are all like support units and stuff that support the ground units or the grunt units in order to go out and be boots on the ground and do their stuff.
Yeah.
Well, within the Marine Corps, every Marine is a rifleman, so everybody knows how to shoot. Everybody has to do the same thing.
Mm.
It's just we're not tailored specifically to, like, we don't go on patrols like they do. We don't train in the field all the time the way they do. And if we do go to the field, it's to train our MOS so that way we can support them and what they need.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if anything comes down to it and something happens and they say, hey, you need to grab a rifle, here's the basics, stay here, help. You can
Yeah.
do that and stuff. And so the mentality that I had when I came into the Marine Corps was that of, I think I was pretty much one of the last like generations, that last breed that came through where the females trained us. It doesn't matter if you're female, you're coming into a guy's world, you need to hold yourself accountable, you need to come up to their standard or don't
That's,
even bother.
yeah.
Like, and that was it. Like, don't try to get your way and don't try to like say, oh, but I can't. It's like, no,
You
it
do.
doesn't, like, you're a Marine, you're a Marine. It's not you're a female Marine and he's a male Marine or,
Mm.
and stuff like that. Like, if you want the respect, if you want to be seen as
An
a
equal.
fellow Marine and an equal in that sense, then you need to be able to perform in that manner. And so my mentality was just like that. Okay, well, what does the Marine Corps have for me to do? I want to go learn shoot. I want to do this. I want to go here. And real quick, little tidbit about that is my first unit where I was staying. There's a bunch of the recon guys were over there, and those are the special ops guys for the Marine Corps.
Sure.
So you have in the Navy, you have the Navy SEALs. The Army, you have like Army, what is it, Green Berets or their special forces, and
Yeah.
then you have the recon guys for the Marine Corps. So and I don't remember what the Coast Guard's got some pretty cool guys too for their
Really?
special operations. Oh yeah, and the Air Force has PJs. Yeah, every group,
Everybody
like,
got their special.
their special ops for every branch is actually pretty cool, like in what they do and stuff.
Yeah.
They're tailored and stuff. And within the branches, everybody argues within ourselves with like, oh, we're better and we're better, and
Yeah.
recon's better than the SEALs and stuff like that. But anybody outside of that, it's like, shut up, because you don't know what you're talking
You can't
about.
say
Like,
shit.
honestly, you have nothing to base your anything off of, right?
Thanks.
And so so anyway, so I'm standing there. I used to live down there, and they're always training. Those guys are always training, so they're always out there running, and then they run, and then they go swim, and then they come back and run, and they're out there. forever. And I was just like, ooh, here's like 20-year-old me, like, oh, wow, I want to do that. That looks fun. Woohoo. Right. So I go to work one day and I was like, hey, Gunny, and he's like, what's up, Stokes? And I was like, hey, I said, can I be a grunt? And he goes, no. He goes, no, you can't. I was like, okay. So I went, through the work day, the next day, come to work, and I was like, hey, Gunner Sergeant. And he's like, yes, Stokes. And now, mind you, I'm a little Lance Corporal, so I'm an E3, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like literally a non-rate. I'm nobody.
Yeah.
I'm a worker bee, right? And so he was like, what's up, Stokes? And I was like, well, can I be a sniper? And he goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. And I got so excited for like half a millisecond, right? I was like, really? He goes, yeah, as soon as you become an O3, which is a grunt. And I said, fine. So then I go away, next day goes by, I skip a day. And the next day I skip a day. And then the next day comes around and I come up, hey, Gunnery Sergeant. He goes, Stokes, no, you can't be a grunt. No, you can't be a sniper. Don't ask me any of those questions again. What do you want? And I was like, okay, well, can I go recon? He's like, Stokes, get out of my face. No, you can't be recon. I was so disappointed because to me, they had all the fun. They had all the training. They got all the weapons training. They got all the knowledge. They got to do, like, they were out in the field. They got to do all of that. And I wanted to do it all. Like, that's what I wanted to do. So, yes. And in the Lionhearted Project is the clip that you saw. Yes. So when I did that, that is when that came out. And I was actually, yes, when I got attached to one too, I was very excited. And
Of course.
honestly, and I knew being the only female there, I knew there was going to be bumps and bruises because I wasn't just there to provide the water because I'm support, and that was my MOS, was water purification, right? So I supplied water. Me and three of my guys were stationed like at this little camp attached to 1-2, and we had to maintain the water supply so they could have their showers and cooking and whatever,
Yeah.
and stuff. So it was like we had to maintain that. And so, there were some HE guys there were some motor T guys there, like other support people, but it was just a very small few of us, right?
Yeah.
But because I was a McMap instructor, they're like, hey, you
You.
need to come train our guys because that goes into promotions and scores and stuff. And so they didn't want the time frame of them being deployed to hinder the unit in being promoted and
Yep.
losing out on being able to be promoted because of this. So I had the honor and the privilege of doing this, and they were some great guys. And I ran into bumps in the road where, myself and the XO, we bumped heads at first. Like, I wanted to punch him in his throat, a couple times and stuff. I was super mad because he made it a point. He was like, he made it very difficult at one point to go on a convoy. And so I finally explained to him the logical side because I don't get very much. My dad taught me that. He's like, emotion's not going to get you anywhere. Your crying's not going to get you what you want. Stop doing that. Like, logic, like think about what it is, right? And so that's something I pass on to her because it's true. Like, you can't just cry and get your way, and so I explained to him, why I needed to go, and we had a conversation. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is my reason behind it. I'm not just going because I want to go on a convoy,
But
well, it's just a bonus, but but it was legit. I needed to go, and so I went and got there, and he dropped me off somewhere else, and I was completely separated from everybody. And I was like, what is this? So I found a ride over to where everybody was at, and I got over there, and was hanging out with like the rest of the unit while we were waiting to go back to where we were camped at. And he was not happy about that. And so he had a long discussion with me as we walked, and he talked. And he basically accused me of trying to be a boy. Um, he said some other things. I can't really recall what they were and everything. And, you know, we ended up coming back and I was just fuming. And one of the captains came up to me. He's like, "Hey, Stokes, like, how's it going? Like, how you doing? You know, oh, sir, you know." And it's like, he's like, "Well,
I'm
don't
waiting for
worry
you to
about it."
ask.
Yeah, because it's not jumping chain of command. If they ask you and you tell them, you know, you just can't go running and telling. But if they ask you,
Yeah.
well, they asked, so I'm not gonna lie, you know. So there's a little loophole there. So anyway, I told him, and he was like, "Well, you don't have to worry about that. The XO is, we're getting ready to leave, and the XO, you know, we won't have to see him again." I was like, "No, not the company XO, like our XO." And
Like that guy. Oh.
he was like, "Oh." And so he's like, "Well, don't worry about it," and you know, and stuff like that. And so we ended up, we got back to base, and the next day, um, he comes up to my living quarters and he knocks on the door, and he comes up, and I answer the door, and I'm in like basketball shorts and a sports bra, and he's like, "Ah!" I'm like,
Like,
it's
hey.
like, "Hey, sir, how's it going? Hold on, let me go grab a tank top or something," you know. And grabbed a shirt and put it on and everything and talked to him. And I was like, "Look," I said, "it's not about me being a female." I said, "I've done everything in my power as a Marine of what and where I'm at in support and what I could do." I said, "You're absolutely right. I haven't gone with your guys and done training in the field. I haven't done certain things because that's not available to me. But what I have done is everything that is available to me from MCIs or extra training that I was able to like attach myself to somehow, you know." And I said, because it comes down to when, you know, basically when things start going topsy turvy, they're not going to say, "Oh, well, she didn't know." They're going to say that sergeant didn't know, or that sergeant, they're, "Oh, the
Mhm.
sergeant, go get the sergeant." They're not going to say, "Oh, we'll go get that female over there because she'll know," or "she didn't know," or "she's not going to know." No, it's not that. It's, "I'm a sergeant. There's things that I need to know as a sergeant." And so that's what, you know, I prepared myself as best as I could to, for if I ever got into the this type of environment
Yeah.
and was able to be in this environment, you know. And I said, all I want to do, like, that's it. I just want to be treated normally, you know, as everybody else. Like, why can't I go to certain place? Like, I work over with your guys, but you're telling me I can't be over there, you know. And it's like, or I can't talk to certain people, or they can't talk. Like,
Uh,
we're all Marines here. Like, I haven't done anything to justice like that deserves that, like
mm,
justifies that type of action against me.
yeah.
And so after talking to him and stuff, and he's like, "You know, you are absolutely right." And he goes, "You have free reign until somebody, you know, until you mess up and you know, or
Ah,
something."
yep.
And I said, "Roger that, thank you." And it was fine. And of course, you know, still after that, you had a couple like higher ups that were like, "It's a female, me, me," and they do like this. But I was expecting that. That's nothing new and stuff. But I would rather go through those bumps and bruises because those are learning curves. Because I, one, am not like other females that you've run into in the Marine Corps. You know, a lot of females, they do bat their eyes and shake their butt, or they're like, "Oh, excuse me, can I be sergeant?" Or, "Oh," and they try to get, it's like, what are you doing? Like, you're making things harder for me and any other female that comes along to
Yeah.
actually be professional and be taken seriously, because you can't like live up to a certain standard, and all you want to do is try to get your way. I mean, I actually had a female Marine tell me, she was like, "Well, can I can't do." I said, "No, I don't care if you can or you cannot." I said, "You need to figure it out and do it." I said, "You basically are in a man's world. It's a big boys gun club, right? You're in a big boys club." And so when it comes to standards, you need to come up to their standard. They shouldn't drop the standard to you,
Yep.
because then the standard as a whole is dropped. You're only as strong as your weakest link,
That's right.
you know? So if the standard drops for her, then what is that helping? Is that benefiting everybody up with their standard up here? No. I mean, there's weak links as guys too. not every grunt can carry his own stuff, or he struggles and everything like that, and stuff. And nowadays, females are more, it's back when I was, younger and stuff, and doing all the things that I was doing, it was like I was an anomaly,
Like, you
but
can do this?
I'm still an anomaly in most cases, but you know, but but
First time.
not as much anymore in as being fit and in and strength wise, or taking care of myself, or the mindset of certain things, and and being able to balance that mindset, not just being like completely one way or the other way. There's a balance there.
For sure. I want to ask
So,
you this right here, and I read it, and Douglas MacArthur said this, so it was a while ago. It's probably pretty something you might have heard before, but it says this: the soldier above all others pays for peace, for it is the
mhm.
soldier who must suffer bear the deepest wounds, scars of war. You know, being a Marine and coming from my daddy was a Marine, my mommy was a Marine, you became a Marine, your brother became a Marine. You obviously that like what's ahead, and then being a female coming in as a Marine, you probably know there's a little bit more. But what does that mean to you when you hear that, when you hear this guy, and he was a pretty good guy, pretty good leader. What do you think about that?
Have you seen the movie Act of Valor?
Most definitely.
So at the beginning, when he makes that statement that there's a blanket of camouflage over the world, that people don't see the evil and the things that are done.
Yeah.
That's exactly that statement, because we've seen what's under that camouflage.
Hmm.
So we understand and we know. And so how do you deal with that afterwards? Because it's not something you can explain to somebody. I can sit there and say, "Hey, my abuser was a recon guy, and there's this, and these are the things that I'm concerned about, and yada yada yada," and they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, I'm like, okay, well, let me tell you this. Go watch this movie. Stuff like that is real. Like,
Real,
they might hype it up for Hollywood purposes,
of course.
but the thought process is still very real. The mindset is still very real, And so, I completely agree with that quote that you just stated. Like, it is real. Like, we bear secrets, we bear, and whether they're big secrets, like because you have secret clearance and it's in like a literal matter,
Yeah.
or down to just the buddy that's next to you. Like, there's secrets that you bear there. What their mind, how were they scared, were they not scared, are they down, are they not? You can't share, you can share, but who do I share to, who's going to understand? Like, and then you see certain things, and it's like it's all in there. So I
Yeah.
completely agree with that whole statement. It is, you know,
Yeah.
um, it is like nobody else can bear that, and it's a very unique thing that service members, especially combat service members, um, understand and recognize, and it really hits home more so for them.
Bugs. I was playing years ago Call of Duty because I'm a super trooper here, and when you play it often, you get a group of people together and you start playing all the time together. And it just so happens there was a military police officer, which was a female, and there was like a guy from 101st, in the army and stuff. And I was like, damn, these y'all are badass heroes, motherfucker. Hey, Superman, Superwoman, here you go. And I was like, hey, where are you posted? And she was saying, hey, on medical leave because I broke my leg. And I'm like, oh, sorry, that sucks. My bad. And then he was like, hey, the guy was up in Alaska, and he's like, hey, I'm not ever going back over because I'm too fucked
Hmm.
up, but not too fucked up to get kicked out, but fucked up enough not to not to be deployed again. I was like, oh shit. But then the
Yeah.
girl, the female, she was like, but I really want to go back, but I don't want to go back. But like, I do, but I don't. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? And I typically ask questions that I'm not always prepared for the answer. And she went into this story about military police being on patrol, arresting bad guys. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what a cop does, what's the problem? Then she started talking about a kid, and I was just like, oh no, don't keep going. She's like, you asked. I'm like, oh, sweet Jesus, help me. And she went into these like hard stories that happens over there. And I was just like, oh, but I thought you were a cop and I thought you work on base. She's like, no, you go out there and you train their police, and when you're on patrol with their police, you got to respond and you got to do this, and things happen. And I was just like, then why the
And they're not as courageous. They literally will turn and run.
actually, that's fucked up. Like, that's
Like
fucked up.
there's certain times where they're like, this isn't, they're like, some of, not all of them,
Yeah,
not all of them, I'm not saying all of them, but I'm just saying there are times when they're like, you know, or you get your guys that are playing both sides and then they'll choose, you know,
that's fucked up.
yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it, like especially in that type of environment when you're dealing with people that um and their belief system, and they, there's a lot of, back in the day you'd call it a double agent, you know,
Yeah,
because that's pretty much really what it is. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and then you get your one guy that's like, okay, well, I'm going to be a leak, so
yeah,
I'm going to do this, but I still feel guilt, or somebody's made me feel guilty, or there's the fact that they've used their families against them.
what?
Hmm. They would use their families against them, and they would threaten to. We would lose workers all the time, and we would, because, and they would come, and then they would not come, and then, or something would happen, because the insurgents and all your bad guys would, they would threaten the families, and they'd say that if you don't do this, or if you're doing this, we're going to kill your family. Or they didn't even get a warning; they just, their families would end up killed.
Well, it's
Yeah, there's a lot.
and yourself, you're saying, hey, I had to deal with all that on top of the guy that wears the same uniform as me, the guy that carries the same patch on my shoulder. The enemy's out there for sure, and I got a rifle for that motherfucker. I got him. You did all your training. He was a badass. But then the guy that's supposed to be beside you, you said that was a person that you know put you in a situation that you definitely shouldn't have been in. And then tomorrow you got to put on that uniform again, and then go back and do the job, regardless. And nobody's asking for the sob stories because we got a real job to do, and your pain is
But
great.
that also,
Go ahead.
but doing that, and what it is. So in the Marine Corps, um, if the Marine Corps wanted you to have feelings, they would have issued them to you. If the Marine Corps wanted you to have a family, they would have issued it to you. That's what, it's a joke, but it's true in a way, and stuff. Um, Certain branches deal better with families because they're bigger. Marine Corps is meant for a specific thing. We're smaller for a reason. We were designed for a specific reason. The Army was built for a certain. They're meant to be big. They're meant to maintain a certain place. The Navy was created for a reason. Same with the Air Force. Like, everybody was created for a certain reason. So it's just, you know, that being said, like, um, we are told, or we're taught, because you can't allow those feelings in, because then it lives are at risk. Then you endanger this person, or your mission doesn't get accomplished, or you know that you can't allow depression to set in right there. Like, you know,
That's
like
true.
you've got to get up today. You know, you have to go and stuff and stuff. So it's one of those things where, um, you know, you could talk about something, but it has to be like very basic surface level, like a light scratch. So then that way it's enough to get it off your chest. And that's why we moan and groan and complain, but then we make fun of it. So it's our way, like Vet TV has certain things like really ridiculous, right? But that's we have to find humor and people. You have to find a way to get through all the emotions and be able. So there's times like people are like, "Y'all are sick. What are you laughing at?" And it's like, well, do you want to really take all of that too seriously? You'll go nuts. Like, like
Facts.
even more nuts. But you know,
Like you're
like
already there, but we're just gonna push it over the
I
edge.
really don't want to crack and have like 5 different personalities, you know, or have me stalking you, you know. So
So when do
you're like,
you get to breathe? Because I asked the Army Ranger guy, Pierce. He's like, when the shots are fired, your buddy drops. You got to keep pushing forward because if not, you're going to be more of him. So you got to keep pushing forward. I'm like, all right, cool. So then after that situation's done, obviously the mission doesn't finish, right? Like you got to keep going and keep going. So when you go back to base and it's done, do you get to breathe? He's like, no, because like, what if an attack happens? And what if this happens? And your mind is always on alert when you're over there for the most part. I'm just like, okay, cool. So what about when you get back home? Well, yeah, but you still got to go to training and you still got to, uphold this and you got to go for promotions. I'm like, okay, cool. So then when do you get to freaking breathe?
what kind of breathing are you talking about?
They get it off. Like just like I don't know, man. Like here in the civilian world, you can cry and mope and mourn about this stuff, and then you could do that and move forward eventually. But then it seems like you guys don't get that. You guys just like man, keep it in, do your job, carry on, right? Like, is there a back?
You have to you have to create a time to breathe, and then even so, you're very careful with creating that time. And and I say that because I've started to take a breath, and then everything creeps in, and I'm like, oh no, can't do that because you get tired. Like there's times like just with anything in general, like you could be tired. Anybody that struggles, I'm tired. And they say you can see it when they're like, I am tired. I am just so tired of struggling. I just want to take a breath. But
Mm,
what happens when you stop and take a breath? You lose all motivation unless there's something there to like lift you up or
mm,
help you to the next thing, or there's something else that you're like, okay, well, here's the next goal. Let me take a breath, and you designate, I am going to set 3 days aside that I am going to relax and do this or do that. And that's why I say, like, God's like, weather problems, sit down,
facts.
you know, or certain things that you might find as like, man, why this person have the car breaks down? Oh man, no, I got it. No, God's saying, take a time out,
Mm,
relax, take a breath, give it to me. And that's something that before I didn't think about, you know, and you don't. And I think the time that you can breathe is one, you have to create a time, and you have to, how are you going to breathe though? Are you giving it to, like, are you still trying to carry it? Because if you're still trying to carry it, you're not going to breathe.
facts.
Are
Yeah.
you giving it, you know what I mean? So are you going to, are you giving that situation or that worry, that anxiety, that trouble, are you giving that to someone? Even if you go to counseling,
Mm,
like, are you going, when you talk about it, are you giving it to them and then breathing afterwards that, whew, I got that off my chest, that's
yeah.
good? No, because you don't have enough time in counseling to do all that.
Oh, you don't.
Counseling is annoying. Look, I'll be the first one to tell you it's necessary. I'll do it, and
Yeah.
it took a long time for me to do it. But at the same time, man, is it a process and it stinks because you have to say something, and then you're sitting there with it, and you're like, Well, an hour. All I got to do was talk about it for an hour. And now you brought it up and you didn't fix it. You just brought, that was my biggest thing. You brought it up and I had to talk about it and it didn't fix anything. Now I go home and you go on to your next patient and I go home and I'm thinking about this stuff here. And now my whole day is ruined. Yada, yada, yada. And then, but then if you stop and you think about it, it's like, okay, you bring up one thing and you say, okay, if you hit the root of those issues, you actually have to be willing to touch the root of whatever it is that's going on. And then for me now, it wasn't so much then, but now I've learned you have to give it away. Like, and you have to, like, for me, I give it to God because God carried the cross, right?
That's
We're
right.
not meant to carry our burdens. That cross represents our burdens, everybody's burdens.
Facts.
So you give him those burdens and you say, okay, I need a breath. Like, God, I can't do this. You have to, he's a leaning post, lean on him and say, I just help. Even if you don't know what you need help with and you just feel like crying and you need help, he knows exactly what's in your heart. Help, just help, help. I don't know what I need help with, but help. Because
Facts.
I feel it. I feel
I feel
something,
something.
and that's something, but help. And I know it's a help feeling. So, but it honestly, that's where I think a lot of people struggle because they've lost faith in certain areas, or they've lost faith, period, or their faith has shifted into, something else that is not going to bring them that release. And on that note, like, not only has their trust is gone, their trust in people, their trust in a system that was designed, like, supposed to help, and or you put more stock in, say, I know this sounds really weird, but I was watching the television series Hannibal, and I that's why I said it sounds weird, but he said a phrase in the show to the guy, because he's a therapist, right? Dr.
Yeah.
Lecter is a therapist, right? So he's sitting there and he looks at the guy and he makes very valid points, even though he's psychotic, right? And sociopath, like, eating people and whatnot, but he's very refined and he brings forth very good points,
Very.
right? Because they do. And he says to the guy, he goes, so you were a friend to him, but he's not a friend to you. And it hit the guy like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So sometimes the the organization, the thing that's trying to help, it's supposed to help you, the something else, to you, it is this greater thing that's supposed to help you, but to it, you're nothing. You're just one little being. You're one person, and that's the people that run it. Like, there's so many people and stuff like that, and stuff. And so it's hard to find time to breathe. It's hard to find what's going to help me breathe. And then a lot of people quit because it takes a lot of time and it's painful and it hurts. And, and when there's pain and there's hurt, what do you want to do? People want to run away, or you don't want to have to explain to a civilian, this is what this means. Sometimes you just need to yell and then that will help you breathe, or I found people, a lot of people go out into the woods and go build something, go live a homestead life. Like, the simpler it is, the more you can breathe, because there's not a lot of fast moving parts. There's a lot of gratification because you're working with your hands, you're doing things, you're reaping what you sow.
Facts. That's the truth. That's the truth.
So for when it comes to breathing, there's times if you get so caught up in the day to day, it's almost like I was saying, like living in California, it's sunny all the time. When do you shed? When do you breathe there? When do you breathe? Even as a civilian, when do you breathe? Like, you don't, because it's, oh, well, here, I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go do this. And you never really finish something, or you just pile it on top of something else and say, oh, well, I can do this. And then I'm going to go do this. And then I'll get back to this. And then I'm going to go over to this. Well, I'm just going to take a break from this for a minute because I don't want to be around these people. But then you're still kind of secretly clinging to that instead of letting something go. So you're really not breathing either,
Yeah.
you're not, and so you just have to find, like, you have to create a time that you consciously say, okay, I'm going to give this away because this is not mine to carry. And I need to, God, provide a way where there is none.
Mm-hmm.
Give me, and that's what wisdom is giving me the knowledge and creating a way where I don't see one, and help me to breathe, help me to understand. And then when you find the positive in things, I mean, as terrible as things are, you got to find that one little positive thing and say, okay, the accident sucked, but what did I gain out of that? I gained this knowledge, or I gained this, or I gained great gratitude or thankfulness, or it could have like an awakening or something, or maybe it taught you you need to slow down, you know, take a breath, and stuff. So it just really depends. Breathing can happen at any point in time. Um, so as you were asking me that question, though, you can take a breath, very shallow, not shallow, but a slight breath once you come in the gates. You take a breath and say, whew, that's over, but you're still in a high alert because of the situation. So you don't take a full breath
Yeah.
and exhale. You just get to take a breath and say, okay, another breath hold. Like it's like doing bobs in the water. Down and up, down and up, down and up, so you're
Yeah.
literally, it's another breath hold. So you get a little bit, oh, here's a breath. Okay, let's do what I got to do. I'm coming up. Okay, another little breath. Let's attack this situation. So you get little breaths. But as far as like what, if you're asking when do you get to exhale
Yeah.
and release all of it, that comes with personal growth. And sometimes people never get to exhale because they
Mm.
stay there in that breath hold um, cycle
Mm.
of moving from one thing to the next. Okay, got a little regenerate, combat naps. Oh, I'm up and going. Take a 2 minute. Oh, I'm up and going. And take a little bit. Oh, I'm up and going. And it's like you never, and that's a personal thing. You, the individual, have to figure out what it is that works for you.
Mm.
Um, and when I say that, it's not like, because because God says free. He gives you free will. If you choose to follow Him, He will. All right, come on. But if
Yep.
you choose to not, he'll say, all right, I respect your wishes. I'm not going to force you to do anything. But don't get mad at me when, like, you choose not to lean on me
That's
and
right.
then you curse me because I didn't help you. Well, you chose to not ask for help,
That's right. That's right.
and so I think it's breathing and getting that breath, that exhale breath that you're asking about is really what you're asking about. Not when do you get to breathe, it's when do you get to exhale and let all that go
Thanks.
and not feel like you're carrying
All of
a
that.
full breath of air, like holding on to a full breath, you know and it depends. It varies person by person. And do are they trying to breathe and let go? Are they trying? A lot of people don't want to. I know I did not want to for a long time. I was happy being angry, for as oxymoron as that sounds. I
Right.
was I was happy because it was a comfort zone. It's just like kids in a gang, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Take
That's
kids in a
true.
gang. They get out, right? I've known people that they've joined the Marine Corps. They get out. They're out of that lifestyle and stuff. And then as soon as they get out, what do? They go right back to it. Or if they have downtime, they go right back to hanging out with them. Well,
Mm.
why do they do that? It's because it's a comfort zone. It's familiar.
Yeah.
It's same thing with somebody that's abused. Like, why can't I ever find a good relationship? Why can I do I only am I attracted to these? Well, when you've had a good person or somebody that's just genuinely kind,
Mm-hmm.
you turn from it. And why do you do that? Because it's not familiar. You have to renew your mind. You have to renew your mind, which in renewing your mind inflicts change. And the only way you're going to change is if you renew your mind, renew your thought process,
Yeah.
renew what you're exposing yourself to. What are you exposing yourself to? And Creflo said this too. What you're exposing yourself to leads to, I want to get this right. Hold on, really fast. I wrote this down.
Hey now.
so what you expose yourself to determines the way you think.
Hmm.
The way you think determines the way you feel.
Yeah.
The way you How you feel determines the decisions that you make. Your decisions determine the actions that you will take, and your actions will determine the habits that you create.
Mm.
And now for those habits that you've now created will now create your character. The type of
Mm.
character that you have determines your destination. So if you don't like your destination, go all the way back to the beginning, and what are you exposing yourself to?
Mm.
Are you exposing yourself to positive things, to things that are to better yourself? Has your circle that is supposed to be uplifting, has it become your cage and is now holding you back? Or is your thought process now, is your thought process now on the negative? Is it on the bad? Is it just down in the darkness? Are you trying to find that light?
Yeah.
And for a while I didn't want to. I was comfortable, and I was happy being angry because it was comforting to me. I was scared. The root of it was fear.
Hmm.
My fear was that if I was not angry, what was going to happen to me? How am I supposed to survive? How am I supposed to better, like, get through a situation? Because I was only looking at negative situations happening to me. I
Right.
wasn't looking at how am I supposed to thrive and go forward,
Mm.
you know, and stuff. I was like, okay, well, how am I? Because so many things had hit me at once, from sexual harassment, from things in the Marine Corps, people, the way I was treated in the Marine Corps, the blackballing that came from the Marine Corps, um, the
Well, you
mental
were
and the
in the
verbal
Marines. You got
abuse.
like you were blackball.
Oh yes, yeah. And my mentality wasn't, to me, I didn't have anything to do with the fact that I was a female. I was just like, it probably did, but I was blind to it because I was like, but I'm good for like, I'm doing what I was told to do. This is
Yeah.
what we're supposed to do. I don't understand why I'm not being allowed to do this. Like, I was the one that I wouldn't cuss, but yet I got chewed out worse than the guy that did cuss out the staff NCO. Like, he just cussed at you, and you basically just
Brush it up.
and walked away.
Mm.
And then I say heck or doggone or something like that, and I get my head ripped off for whatever reason. Like, I just talk to you all. Who do you think you're talking to? Like,
You.
I don't understand you. I don't know. Like, and stuff. But it's you know, for me, with all of that stuff, I was only looking at things from a victim point of view. I
Mm.
was only looking at things, how do I survive being in this situation? And when you're only looking to survive, you are technically looking at yourself as a victim in everything.
Yeah.
How do I protect myself when something happens to me? How do I get out of the situation after I'm like, okay, I'm about to be a victim. So how do I get out of this? Or how do I survive this? How do I get all of these attacks off of me? And when you're being attacked, that's you being a victim. You're not a victor in that situation. And so when your mindset changes from being a victim, and I think that could possibly be an answer to your breathing question, is that you can breathe when you finally stop or when you stop looking at yourself as only a victim,
Mm.
and look at yourself as, okay, I had some hard times, things were not always positive, but let me try to move forward, and then take those negatives, and how can I make sure that and become a servant like God. That's what God said. He want be like him and be servant like, from him washing feet, he was a servant. So
Right.
be a servant. How can and a servant doesn't necessarily mean, here, like, how can I serve you? Like, no,
Hey.
like, for me, serving is, okay, well, how can I help somebody, and how can I be a blessing to them in what they need? Does that mean that they just need an ear? Does my story, something that I've overcome, Is that uplifting? Does that encourage? Is that encouraging? Does that help somebody not make the same mistakes? Does that help somebody see something in a different way? Or maybe they weren't, it just wasn't clicking because of the way somebody else had phrased it, and I phrased it in a different manner. And they're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that. Like, okay, I understand, and, um, it really, it took a while for me to do that. It took a very long time, and it took a very hard situation the last 3 years that I was going through, that it literally, like, I ended up on the floor bawling. And it's, the Bible says, there's speaking in tongues, and then there's groanings. And I had heard of groanings, but I didn't really understand like what that was until this day, when
Mm.
I literally was in so much pain, and I was so hurt, and so overwhelmed, and so frustrated, and so just everything at once, that there's still not even a word to like describe that
Yeah.
feeling, that I literally, the only thing that you can do is just make noises, like groan, and you're crying, but you're groaning, and you want to stop, but you don't know what to say, and it's just noise, and
Yeah.
it sounds like, I don't, it's groaning,
That's
and there's no other way to put it. And then, at that point in time, you're like, I surrender. Like, what? Like,
what do you
I
want?
can't do it. I
Yeah.
can't do it. Like, I cannot do this, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then he gives you a little uplifting, you know, seed here, gives you a little step here to step up on the ladder, and then another little ring on the step, and then another one. And then before you know it, he's helped you climb out of that darkness, out of that domain of darkness, out of the lion's mouth. Because then once you climb out of the domain of darkness, what happens? There's the lions, like in Daniel, in the lion's den.
That's
The
right.
lions are going to try to like get you, but then he'll deliver you out of the mouth of the lion too.
Yeah.
And that, and the greatest, like, the enemy uses what worked for him in the past. He'll use it against you over and over again.
Ain't
So
that
once you realize that your mind is like, and you can catch those things, or you recognize, I'm starting to feel depressed and I don't know why. Okay, I feel sad. Like, I'll give myself, um and it's only because my best friend did this for me. She helped out in this situation, so maybe it'll help for somebody. I
ain't
gave myself 3 days. So if I got into a funk, or if I got into a certain mood, I gave myself 3 days, and I would binge watch whatever it was. And I gave myself 3 days. I Don't talk to me. I don't want to do anything. I gave myself 3 days to be in my own little bubble.
Yeah.
But after the 3 days, no more. Like, no
Ooh.
more. And it doesn't. And then I started recognizing, after doing that, I started recognizing that's how I was feeling and stuff. Um, shh. I started recognizing that's how I was feeling, and that's what was going on. And then, so from that point on, I'd be like, okay, well, I don't need 3 days anymore. I don't
Yeah.
need this much time. I can, you know, here you go. What do you say? You're welcome. Um, you can, I don't need that much time. I don't,
Mm.
and then that led to, you know, um, what are you giving your attention to? Now my 3 days of is not binge watching a show. It's putting Creflo on. So it's elevated. So now I literally Creflo every morning, and I don't know, like, anybody, like, I'm gonna pass this along because this has really helped me. So for the last year now, once the pandemic hit, so I watch a pastor. For those of you that don't know, I watch a pastor named Creflo Dollar, and he is out of College Park, Georgia,
Yes.
and his church is World Changers Church. Um, I have been watching him since, like, I think he should be older than he is, because I feel like I've been watching him forever.
Ever.
Um,
Ever. And he looks still
Forever.
young, bro. Oh my
He
God.
doesn't he doesn't look any older, right, at all.
Yeah.
So I have been watching him since I was probably like 8, 9, or so, like, yes, my dad used to put him on.
Wow.
And so it wasn't something that we'd watch, because my dad didn't like to go physically to church, so we would watch. It was when it was on TV on the Trinity Broadcasting
Yeah,
Network,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and he
yeah.
would watch it, certain things. And we also used to watch Fred Price, who passed away just recently.
He did.
Yes,
He did.
that's very sad, but great. He paved the way for a lot of pastors, and a lot
Most
of,
definitely.
just revolutionized the way things were taught, and the way
Yeah.
things that you delivered things, and stuff. So, he I watched Pastor Dollar, I watched Creflo Dollar, and um he teaches. So he doesn't preach at you. He
Right.
doesn't
Right.
do the whole uh
In the name of
shouting.
Jesus, huh? I
Yes,
got
yes,
away,
yes.
huh?
No,
None of that.
no, none of that. None of that. No, none of that. He's
Yep.
very articulate. Um Sometimes
The
his
Latin
other
terms.
side comes out, will come out and stuff when he really gets into something, and everything. But he goes off of scripture. He doesn't give you what he thinks. I really like the way that what he does is, before he preaches, he actually prays, and he says, "All of you, none of me." And I really like that, because he's like, it's not him. And then I also, when he's praying that, I say, "Anoint my ears to hear what you need me to hear. What do I need to hear out of this?"
Yes.
Because everybody can listen to the same message, but receive something different that is specific for their life,
Right.
and and everything. So, with that being said, every morning since the pandemic, because churches were closed down, this is your last piece.
Okay,
Um,
no, Mom.
since the churches were closed down, um, he started a daily confessions slash declarations on Facebook.
Okay.
So every morning at 10 o'clock Eastern, he goes on Facebook Live,
Mm.
and he says Psalms 91, but he breaks Psalms 91 down into declarations, like, "I declare that I am covered by his outstretched arms.
Wow.
I declare that I will not be afraid. I am not afraid of the darkness, and nor of the arrows that fly by day.
Mm.
I declare," and when I say it, so I say it, and I will say, "I declare that that Neela, that we," because I cover myself, I cover her individually, and then
Yeah.
I cover us together.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I said, "We are covered by his outstretched arms." So there's a lot of things. And then, because she falls under me, I say things. There are certain things that I'll say that, because of his love for, I declare that because of his love for me, for Neela, for us, that I will do this, because she
Mm.
still falls under me.
100%. Yep.
And then for certain things, you know, it's just a we together, and everything. But but my point is that every morning I get up and I say these. And if I get up before, because I'm no longer, it used to be 7 o'clock my time,
Okay.
but it's now 9 o'clock my time. And so it kind of threw me off, because that's how
That's
because I set my day. That's how I
mm,
set my day.
so important.
Because I wake up, and the first thing I do when I wake up is I say, "Good morning, Jesus." And I try to knock any of those thoughts out, that's like, "Oh, well, when I don't want to get up, and I don't want to have to do this, what do I have to do?" And I'm dreading, looking for, like, the enemy tries to attack you, like, right away at the beginning of the day. And so I'm like, no. So I'm like, "Good morning, Jesus. Like, what do we got going on today?" I'll pray in tongues a little bit
Yes.
as I'm still laying there sometimes, when I'm struggling to get out of bed. But
Nice.
everybody struggles. It
Mo-
doesn't, just because I have faith and my faith is renewed and I am doing this, doesn't mean that I don't have, you know, like, off days. That's just when the enemy's trying to attack me even harder. And that's what you got to realize is, okay, the enemy's really, once you come to those realizations, you're like, oh, the enemy's really coming after me right now. So, and one thing that Creflo is going over right now is, like, one thing he said, if you want to arrive at peace, your mind has got to be set towards that. And you have to, and in order for it to be set towards that, you have to trust him that his word will bring you through, that he will bring you through, because that is a promise from him. This is a living word. So it's promising, he's promising that he will bring you through. And where people kind of get all wishy-washy is because it doesn't happen the way they want. Like everybody was
Oh,
super excited about
oh, so
2020, right? Remember 2020?
everybody.
Oh, it's 2020, the year of clarity. Woohoo, the year of clarity. It's the year of clarity. And then suddenly this pandemic hits, right? And everybody's like, oh
Oh,
my gosh, this is the worst year ever. Right? Oh no,
no, no.
it was the year of clarity.
A hundred,
It really was. You
hundred.
had you had to slow down. You had to look at yourself internally. You had to look at yourself spiritually. You had to look at your relationships. You had
Yes.
to look at what was important to you. It was clarity to the fullest.
Yeah. To the point
And
that you don't even
now this
like.
and now this year is the year of restoration.
That's right.
Restoring. So last year, like you
Yeah.
got all of this stuff, like clarity out to wazoo, right? Now, what are you going to do with that? Are
Ooh.
you going to wallow in that, or are you going to allow yourself to be restored? Now, just like we talked about earlier, you cannot move forward unless you break something down. Just like in the Marine Corps, what you can't move forward in the Marine Corps and get the knowledge and the drill down and the way that we conduct ourselves, the mindset, until what? Until you break down that old and then build everything back up. So
Mm.
it's the same thing in life. You want a renewed mind, you got to break the old. That's why when you get baptized, the old, when you go underwater, what is that? That's like you dying with him. As you're underwater, you're buried with him. And then when you come back up, you
Yeah.
rose again with him. And now you
Yes.
are now washed. What was old is past and gone away. You have been made anew. But like, and Creflo was saying this, he goes, but what people don't realize is that once you've been made anew, you have to renew your mind. And when to renew your mind, you have to get into the word. And so the other day he
Oh,
said that
yes.
you have to do four ways of feeding your mind. You have to read, which is reading the word. So
Hold
learn
on
how
now.
to
Hold on. Read.
oh,
I'm learning here,
read.
boy.
Okay, it's read. I wrote
Yeah.
it all down.
There you
I
go.
wrote it down.
What?
I wrote it. Look, this whole book. Look, this whole book, real quick. This whole book right here, right,
Yeah.
has my from the very beginning of this book. This started. When did I start this? The first time I wrote in here was April 8th, 2018.
Oh
And
wow.
this was when my journey
That was when it
really, really
started.
began. And you can see the way that I wrote things down in here
Hmm.
versus the way, like, and I'll write like in the margins here and stuff. I would write here's the scripture. And then I would write things down and be like, I declare I will not get hurt. Nila will
Hmm.
not get hurt. I declare that my has no stronghold.
Hey.
Jesus destroyed the works of the devil. I am one with Christ, and I have the authority to defeat him. And
Yes.
under him, as you see, like under the word him, I draw little arrows, and what
Hmm.
those hymns mean. Like to me, what him stands for is the devil, Satan, my ex, dark strongholds. So I threw people, things
Hey.
that were toxic, things that were hurting me. And then as I go through it, like it's just all of it's like it literally I write in different colors because it helps me to
Yeah.
like highlight things.
Organized as
But
whoa.
it does, but it literally,
Yeah.
yes, you may. But I literally like it's as I've grown, all of
Hmm.
this has grown. Like the entire word, like what I've received. And some of the scripture that's in here, it's like repeated because he goes over things, but I receive something different from it.
Oh, truth.
So, yeah. So back to this, the
Yes.
four ways, okay?
Yes.
The four ways of feeding your mind and
Hmm.
and stuff is the first one is to read.
Yep.
So you want to read the word because what did we just talk about? What you expose yourself to
Right.
has an effect on your destination,
Most definitely.
right? And so after you read, you have to schedule time to listen. Number two is schedule time to listen. And whether that be like in the morning, I schedule time to listen to Creflo in the morning, say my declarations. And then what I will do is there are times where I will I will go online to Creflo Dollar Ministries,
Yeah.
and then I'll go to the archived, watch now and go to the archived services, and I will watch the entire service, and I'll push play and take off in my car, and I listen to it as I'm driving. I'm getting ready.
Yeah.
Something's big's going on, or I'm feeling heavy, or something's going on. I push play, and
Mm.
then sometimes I'll be like, what do I need? Something, I don't know what it is, and I don't want to watch. What I was listening to is not really, I'm not receiving anything. You can feel when you're not
A
like
hundred.
really receiving, because you're just kind of like, whatever, and you're not paying attention, right?
Definitely.
So I will go through, I'm like, God, which one do I need to hear? And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to hear this one, and God's like, no. So I'll start it, and I'm like, nah, this isn't the one I
Yeah.
needed. And then I'll go back and I'll listen to a different one. But they're archived. So, and then if you go to, there's other ones, like not just the archived services, but just um, there's smaller clips of not the entire service, but
Okay.
certain portions of the service,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and everything that are like 25 minutes long.
For
But
sure.
the point is there's so many things. And what I will do is when I'm getting ready in the morning, or I get up in the morning,
Mm.
I will put one on just so that is what I'm hearing first thing in the morning.
Uh,
So I schedule a time to listen, whether that's in the car somewhere. Like this little girl, when
mhm.
we go to bed, she's like, "Can you put Creflo on? Can you put Creflo on? Can you put like?" We go to
No
sleep
problem.
listening to it.
Yeah.
We we go to sleep listening to it, because then
Reason.
it takes away any of those thoughts that are gonna, like, the enemy trying to like get you to have any bad dreams or think the negative thoughts, and you're going to sleep listening to the word and encouragement, and
Powerful.
the spirit feeding you and filling you up and renewing you as you sleep.
So true.
um so that was number two. Number three is to study. And so by studying, he was saying that learn how to rightly divide the Bible. It says you
Mhm.
have to rightly divide the Bible. You can't just read it straight through
Facts.
and say, "Oh, this is what it means," and take it literally. Like, because they're all parables. They're all stories, because that's how God, like, because one story in there, might resonate with somebody else's lifestyle more
Mm.
than my lifestyle.
Facts.
I may understand that, but then I may understand and really receive something from a different story that's, they're talking about the same thing, forgiveness, or love or something. So you have to learn to rightly divide the Bible. And one way to rightly learn that, is to schedule time to listen, which is learning how, and then reading, because then you learn what scripture is like. If you're going through a situation, okay, well, I'm having a hard time with this. Let me go ahead and go to something, you can even type in
Yeah.
depression versus the battle depression, and then you're rightly dividing certain things, but also by listening, you know, to somebody teaching you, not preaching at you, not telling you what you have to do. It's not a religious thing. It's about having a relationship with God, and your relationship with him. Nobody else's. It's not religious.
That's right.
It's none of that. It's you figuring out, him talking to you, you talking to him. It's a dialogue, not a monologue, a dialogue.
That's right.
And then number four is use your imagination. And by that he means begin to imagine things you see in the word. So as you read something, you know, imagine yourself that coming to fruition in your life.
Mm.
Imagine yourself walking in the word and saying, okay, well, prosperity is mine. So prosperity, I'm going to be able to, I'll have a ranch, and I see myself on a ranch, and on this ranch I'll be able to help other people. I'll have them be the example,
Mm.
a nonprofit to where I can bring moms and daughters, like single parents. It doesn't just have to be mom and daughters. It can be, dad or daughter
Hey.
duos. Dad or dad son duos. Just a single parent and their child or their children do something like that. And this just came to me, actually, is why I'm saying it. So
Amen.
like it like
Amen.
like I can have something to where twice, do like twice a year, to an annual thing where you have just like a camp out, people come out or they do something. I remember a long time ago, I used to think about, I was actually here in, I was actually here in the state, and I was like, I was visiting somebody, and I was like, man, I would love to have like a ranch with horses on it, and have and have like equine therapy, and just have
Mm.
therapy for veterans. Um, and it wasn't, mine wasn't necessarily just veterans. Mine was a kind of across the board,
Yeah.
but also not just like with the animal, but have like the services where people can have the sit down therapy, and talk,
Yeah.
but also be like, okay, well, here
Play
I'm
some
gonna come
horses.
ride, and this is
Yeah.
part, and I'm gonna work and do stuff like that. And I hadn't thought about that one in quite a while, but that was something that I really wanted to do, and that's something that's really heavy on my heart.
Mm.
Um, and so what I need to do is, as I get into the word, I need to start imagining that coming to fruition. I need to imagine that, okay, well, God's got a path for me. So imagine myself walking in his path and being able to serve others and help others, and, be a living epistle to
Yes.
other people through
Yes.
my life. And it's not for selfish reasons. Like, you can't go and say, "Oh, I imagine myself having a lot of money, and I'm going to have so much money, and I'm going to be rich, and I'm going to do this," because listen, it's right? You can't
Right.
do that,
That's right.
because then it doesn't bring him glory. It doesn't serve his purpose to like bring others to him, to show them the way, to bring peace of mind to other people, and stuff. So those are the four ways of
I
feeding your
like that.
mind.
I like that. I like that. So I
But
know.
yes, so Creflo, I do Creflo in the mornings. That's my thing. I literally took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of notes. I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of notes, and I think I got through 10 minutes of Wednesday night's Bible study. So Sunday, yeah. So, and it's like a 45-minute service. So because I write things down, like I literally will write things down almost verbatim with
Mm.
him at times, because um it just hits. Like, he'll say something like, renewing the mind is a process of change, which is something that I just said. But
Good.
that's something that I learned in listening to him, and praying, and it's true, because
Very true.
renewing your mind is a process of change. And he says this, he goes, change isn't change until you've changed. And that goes back to what I was saying.
Oh, true.
Until you're ready to do it,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. So you're not going to be able to exhale and take that breath and let that go,
Mhm.
um, until you decide that you're ready to do that. And sometimes it's scary to start. Sometimes it's just like, I know it was for me. And if you watch that Lionhearted film project that I did, I say that. I said I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go to therapy, but I knew I had to do something. I had to do something else. And at least it was a step in the right direction, because what I was doing was not working, and it wasn't working at all. Like, you can fill your day with a bunch of stuff, but like you said, well, do you ever slow down? I'm like, yeah, when God's like, hey,
So yeah.
slow down for a minute, right?
Yep.
Because you get too wrapped up in what's going on, and sometimes you forget. And like today, I really had to make a conscious effort, like, especially with Neela, like, we prayed on the way to the rodeo. After we got done, you know, I was like, thank you, Jesus, for keeping us safe today. And
Mm.
Neela having a great friend, and she hears me saying it, and she'll say amen with me or something like that. But
That's
but just showing her um, that, and me wanting to, what helped me want to change even more is I heard Creflo say something about um, being a living epistle to others, because sometimes, like, just like, 'cause people were like, well, how do I talk about this stuff? I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
yeah.
How am I supposed to, like, I'm surprised, it's really the Holy Spirit talking about all of this stuff, because it's that, like, for me, I was that person, like, even 3 months ago, like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't be able to tell anybody what to say, or how am I supposed to
Yeah.
remember scriptures and this and that, and hey, look at what I'm doing right now. So, but it was but he literally, it's the the factor is that you, how do you put it? It's um you just, I had to basically just give way to all of it and say, okay, um I'm gonna, I want to be a living epistle, but oh, that's what I was saying. So people that want, like, how do I talk to somebody about this?
Mm,
Well, you don't have to go out to like a bunch of people, strangers or anything. Like, you could
right.
start right there at home, start with a family member, and if that's too
Mm,
scary to even say anything, then just be a living epistle for them. So show them
that's
through
right.
your actions and through your life, because most people, what, especially kids, what,
The what?
people copy
Yeah,
what you, they watch what you do, and they imitate what you do more than what you tell them to do.
100%. What's the name? Joyce Meyer says that the best way to preach the word is to live the word.
Yep.
The best.
And that's being a living epistle.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
And how do you become a living epistle? Well, you have to live it. And in order for you to live it, you have to change cycles. You have to let chains be broken. You have to find the root of what's going on. You have to change. You have to renew your mind. See, it all intertwines. You
Uh,
have to renew your mind,
I know.
allowing you to change. And that change will be, and that's what the change happens, because God's like, because it magnifies him. Because there's times like good things happen to me. I'd be like, yeah, well, people are like, well, why did you move here? Back in the past, be like, oh, well, why did you move? Oh, because I wanted to. People now are like, well, what brought you here? God. And
Facts.
there's some people are like, oh,
What?
but most people are like, well, amen to that. And I'm like, because it's such a big significant, and he says that. He said, there's going to be a point in time that something happens to you that you cannot deny that it was him.
So true. So
You
true.
cannot deny it. And you, at that point in time, people can look at you crazy, like you got three eyes. It doesn't even matter, because he's the one that brought you through. I'm going to give glory to him. I'm going to thank him. And you can look at my life and you can laugh if you want to, but I'm where I'm at, and I'm thriving and prosperous. And prosperity doesn't necessarily mean like
Nope. Nope.
money, and it
Nope.
does not mean mammon. It doesn't mean like all this what's the
Material
word for
things.
it, this,
Material.
the what, materialistic stuff. It doesn't mean all of that. And is that prosperity could mean like, look, I'm free. I've got peace. I've got peace, thank you, Jesus.
That's right. I always tell people it's the fruits of the spirit that we're definitely going to be prosperous in. Love,
Yes, yes.
joy,
Joy,
just peace. Like
peace,
these are the things
patience.
that we need to be
Hmm.
prosperous. If we're not prosperous in those things, fuck it, don't matter.
But by being prosperous and all of that, it brings light to him, which makes you even
100%.
more prosperous, which brings more light, which makes you more prosperous. And before you know it, and because you're doing good things, and you're helping, and you're like, and you're not doing it for your own recognition,
Right.
you know, you're gonna flourish in ways that you never fathomed that you could flourish and stuff. So,
And walking by faith, not by sight, is such a powerful thing. That
oh yes.
when you said earlier, that I want to have a ranch, I'm going to help people. Like, do you got a ranch out back that you helping people? And if not, you better be speaking it. You get what I'm saying? You better
Exactly.
be speaking it because
Mm-hmm.
in the in, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word
There
was
you,
good. And what did he
it
do?
was good.
He
Everything was
spoke.
good.
He spoke it into existence. Let there be
Mm-hmm.
light. He spoke it. And he says that we were made in his likeness, meaning that when we speak, we're creating things. It says that our tongue is the root of, no, our tongue can produce life or death. So when you,
And let me tell you to choose life. See, because
hey,
Krepla says this. He goes, in case you are too, I didn't want to say stupid because he says stupid. He's like, but in case you are confused, or in Krepla's case, like he says, if you're too dumb to know which one to choose,
mm,
but if you are unsure of which one to choose, he tells you, he gives you the answer. Choose life
Yes.
Choose the good.
Yes.
You have a choice, but I'm
Yes.
going to give you the answer to please
Like, this
choose
is the
this one.
answer.
But I'm still going to honor your wishes. That's,
Exactly.
and that's a big thing. I
Yes.
am going to, you are a free moral agent.
Mm.
You can't, and that's one thing. Like, you don't get mad at people. If they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. And that's hard for some people, like, as they're coming into like Christianity and
Everybody
getting
gotta
to their
know.
relationship.
Listen to me. Listen
It,
to me. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, well, you got to do this. You can't get mad at people. You got to love them where they're at. And sometimes loving them where they're at means that you just send them a video to
There
help them through the day. You don't have to
you go.
necessarily be like, here's the shirt off my back, or be in vicinity with them. And
Yeah.
that took me somebody pointing that out to me too, because I was trying to be there and help somebody, but it was sucking my energy and my peace out slowly, and I didn't really recognize it that way. And he's like, you can be there, but be there like drill instructor style, like one arm's distance, like one arm's distance
What
from them. And he's
do you
like,
mean?
you
I
can
see
help
them
somebody,
videos. Yo, you say
huh?
drills. I see them drill instructors like right up in here. There's not one arm, but that's I see them right up in here. What the? I'm like, like scary.
No, that's a figment of your imagination. It's one arm's distance. One arm's distance.
Oh, man. Yo, y'all intense on a level, but and anytime I see Marie, like my leadership mentor, he's a colonel in the Marines, right? He went overseas, did his thing, then he is now reservist colonel in California. So and he's a good dude, but when he starts talking, he's not loud. He's not abrasive, just very calm, very direct, and this is what you got to do. It was like, yes, and you just got a way to talk. You're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. It's just like there's there's like power in just like, hey, you know what you got to do. You got to do this, and it was just like, oh my gosh, why is it hitting my heart so bad? Why are you saying it like this? Ow,
But what is it? What is it? What is it? Like the enemy yells and screams,
mm-hmm.
but God whispers, so you have to listen. You have it's all quiet. It's
Ah,
things that are quiet. He's not loud. He's not
mm,
boisterous. He's not all in your face. He's not forcing you
mm,
to do things.
thanks.
He presents it,
Yes.
and you have a choice.
Mm.
You have a choice. You are a free moral agent. You can choose to do this, and he will honor that. You can choose to do the other, and he will honor that too.
Most definitely.
And Creflo said something else. He goes, you know what? He goes, the devil can't make you do something, and God won't force you to
Mm.
do anything, because the devil can't make you, right? He'll make you think that he can make you,
Thanks.
right? But he can't make you do anything, because you are a free moral agent to choose. You have free will, right? But
Right.
he makes you think otherwise, right? So he cannot make you be bad. But God will not force you to be either.
Mm.
He will let you choose, and he will, because his word is his word, and
That's
he will
right.
stick by it. And since he
Right.
tells you, I will, it is your choice. If you choose, even though it breaks his heart and it hurts him, he will still give you what you want.
Mm.
If you say, I don't want anything to do with you, he will say, this hurts my soul. I'm still here for you, but I will give you what you want. If you want to walk away from me, you can walk away from me. I will never walk away from you. I will be here when you're ready,
Right.
and I hope that
Right.
you become ready, but I will honor that, and I will completely, it, it's like it's somebody with a cutting you off.
Mm.
I don't want to do that. All right. Well, then I
Yeah,
don't want to have to cut you off, but I'm cutting you off.
that's right.
You are free to choose to do, just the prodigal son, right? Took
That's,
all his money, took off and left, right? Here's another parable for people, right? Like, this is how you can put, this is rightly dividing the word.
that's right.
You
That's true.
know, there's the prodigal son. What did he do? He took his money, he took off, and he chose to do that. The father didn't want to do it, but he has free will, and he said, "All right, my son, here you go." It broke his heart. It hurt him. He took off. He spent all his money, lived, wildly, and did what he want, and all sorts of stuff that he shouldn't have sinned every which way he could possibly think.
Everywhere.
And then what? He hit rock bottom where he was gonna about to eat pig slop and was like, "What am I doing?" And then decided to go back to his father. And you can
Hmm.
use this as what it is and say, "Your father God, you took your inheritance and you took off. You hit your whatever your rock bottom was
Hmm.
for you is your pig slop." And then you said, "Wait, let me go back to my heavenly father."
Yes.
And he says, "I'm here with outstretched arms and I'm here
Here for you.
for you.
That's right.
Thank you for coming back, you know, and then and embraces you with it. So he's going to give you what you're wishing for basically, or what you want, your
Yeah,
will.
that's right.
Either way, good or bad, but you can't blame him and say, "Well, you didn't keep me safe." Well, you turned your back on me and you walked away and thought you could do it yourself.
That's right.
And
That's
obviously you
exactly right.
can't do it yourself. So why don't you come back? And this is what I tell people. I said, "You tried everything else. Why not try it?"
Hey.
I said, "What's it going to hurt? What is it
Yeah,
going to hurt for you to actually listen to somebody, and try to just learn a little bit?" And what is that? What I was watching a movie. What movie was I watching? God's Not Dead 2.
oh,
Have you seen that one?
no.
Have you seen God's Not Dead?
I haven't. I just thought you were talking about the song, God's not dead, he's surely alive.
No, that's from the movie. They made a movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm. So
Yeah,
there's a movie, God's Not Dead,
yeah.
and there's an atheist teacher that wants everybody basically to write down God is not real, because during a part of the class they would have brushed over that, and he said, "Well, just to completely bypass that, we're going to go ahead and I just want you to write down that God's not real, or God is dead, or something like that, or God's not real." And one kid was like, I can't do that.
He was like, I ain't doing that one.
And then he was like, and then the teacher kept trying to like force it to be like, "Okay, well, since you can't do that, then you're going to give us a lecture once a week on why he is, or why you think," or like try to like make it to like this,
So he has
to try to make it to where he was like the kid was defeated, right?
to.
Tried to make a joke out of the situation, I guess you could say. And but by doing so, the kid brought up so many valid points and brought up certain things that now certain classmates are now like,
Hmm.
"Hmm, well, and well, okay." And then I won't give away the rest of the movie, but it's good. You got to watch it. And
Yeah.
then God's Not Dead 2. It's about a teacher who um, she was teaching, and I guess one of her students was not doing so well. She found uh, her parents, her brother had died, and so the parents got rid of all of his stuff. She wasn't doing well because she felt like they were just like,
Leave it.
he doesn't exist. They just deleted him.
Yeah.
Um, some company came to pick up all of his stuff, and the lady comes up and goes, "Here, I found this in one of the boxes. It was her brother's Bible." And she was like, "Wow, I didn't even realize like
Yeah.
that had happened." Um, and then it was real quick before that scene happened, the teacher had asked the girl, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever." Well, after school, something drew her to the teacher at the coffee shop and was saying, she was like, "Well, when you asked me before if I was fine, I lied. I'm not okay. This is what's going on, and stuff like that." And she goes, "What gets you through? You always seem so joyous. You always seem so certain, and nothing seems to really get to you. Like, you seem positive all the time. Like, what is doing that for you?" And she says, "Jesus." That's
Mm.
it. That's all she said to her. And the girl was like, "Okay." And then the lady comes up, gives her the Bible from her brother's stuff. So now she's kind of like curious, because her
Yeah.
brother, she's like, our family's not religious, or they don't have a relationship with God. So she was kind of like, wait, this woman just says this one word, and then I find my brother's Bible. So she starts reading. And so in their class, and she's a history teacher. So she goes to class, and the girl goes to class, and she's sitting there, and she says, she asked the teacher a simple question, um, about, what they were studying. And she goes, is that similar to the way Jesus did this?
Mm.
And so she answered the question in a historical reference type of way. And I guess one of the students text messaged somebody, and it got like this huge blow up where it was like, oh, the teacher's pushing religious beliefs and she's not allowed and you need to apologize. And she's like, I'm not apologizing because I didn't do anything wrong. I
Facts.
wasn't forcing my beliefs or anything on people. I answered a question. A student had a question. I just answered a question and referenced, this and then they went through this whole trial situation and everything. And it was the way that the whole movie worked. It just brought up a lot of good points in the in things. So in this trial,
Mm.
um they decide to attack it from a historical point of view instead of, because everybody's trying to make it a religious thing, and taking away from the fact that I'm a history teacher.
That's what I'm
I
doing.
was teaching history,
Yeah.
and this just happened to be part of the history like question, but I didn't do it in a religious way. I did it in a historical type of way. And so they end up bringing people in to speak. And a lot of people have done studies that are atheists that are like, no, God does exist, because they've done
That's
actual
right.
studies like trying to prove otherwise, and it just doesn't work. And then
Uh,
they say, no, I absolutely unequivocally believe that there is a God,
yeah.
that there is God, that God is real. And they're like, well, you were a Christian. And the guy's like, no,
No, I was atheist.
I was an atheist. I was not raised around this. We didn't go to church. I knew nothing of this. I didn't believe. In fact, I was angry, and this and that. Like, I just had, and a lot of people, they're just angry because something happened. So they're angry at God, or they have church hurt because something at the church hurt their feelings and it was never made right, or they took things too personally, or something happened. So they have church hurt, whatever the reason is, they have church hurt, and or they're angry, and so they turn their backs, and then they get mad and say, well, God left me. Well, no, you turned your back.
Right.
He's still been standing there. He just honored your wish to go and do your own thing because you have free will to do that. And so in this movie they bring up, the guy's like, no, I don't, I did not believe. And then I did the research, in this manner, and no, he is real. And now I believe because
Mm.
I've done my and they try to disprove it and stuff. And so, what's the greatest thing, what movie was that? The Unusual Suspect, or The Usual Suspects?
Yeah, yeah.
The Usual Suspects, when at the end when he's like, what's the devil's greatest feat is making you believe that he doesn't exist,
That's right. That's right. That is
you know?
that is so true because we have that everywhere in our lives, right? That devil doesn't exist. Just live on your own terms, all this stuff, and it's
And he will leave you alone when you do that.
oh what? He won't even worry about you. You have no stress,
Exactly.
no
And
bullshit, no nothing.
nothing. And you'll think, oh, this is great. My life is wonderful. And that's what in the first movie, God's Not Dead. In the
Hmm.
first movie, that's what happened. One of the guys was like, he was talking, his mom was ill or something, and she didn't really respond a lot and stuff like that, or she like dementia or something. And he's sitting there talking to her, and he's like, well, he's like, he said something along those lines of, well, I don't have anything, nothing bad's happened to me, and I don't believe in this and that. And she's like, she all of a sudden, she's sitting there and she goes, well, the devil doesn't have anything to worry about with you then, does he?
Yes.
And he just kind of like looks at her, because that's the truth. Like, the whole purpose is he just wants you to walk away. He doesn't care if you don't believe he's real, or if God's real. You don't believe, then he's like, all right,
All right,
live
cool.
your life, do whatever.
Yeah.
But when you die, like Creflo says, you die, you're gonna find out one way or the other.
Very quick.
And even it, yeah. And if you don't want to believe, and it's not, what it is, at least I lived a good life.
Ain't that
I still lived a good life.
that's
And
right.
then and when it turns out to be real, because it is real, I get to go live a better life,
Yeah, ain't
and
that the
stuff like
truth?
that. So it's not going to be a surprise to me.
I know
But
exactly where I'm going.
I know exactly where I'm going.
Uh,
And
j-
the word says that to be absent from the body is to be present, in
That's right.
heaven with him.
That's
So
right.
it tells you where you're going. I think that's also another thing where people, I think it might be hard for them is because that, like we were talking about, the fear of the unknown, or in that being comfortable, um, you stay in a toxic relationship because it's familiar. So there's a fear of the unknown
Hmm.
when you step into something new. But in order to renew your mind, you have to let go of the past and you have to change. You have to let go. You have to grow and you have to trust God.
Hmm.
There has to be trust there, you know?
And I like to tell people in the beginning is like, hey, you know what? God said He's your father, right? He's like, but I never had a father. Perfect. What would you say to your father if he was sitting in front of you? I would, and they start cussing him like, no, I can't cuss at God. Hey, listen, you can't cuss at God, but your father you can. And he says he's your father. So he knows your heart. He knows who you are. And because you don't have a relationship with him, he expects the angerness. He expects the bitterness. He expects the hurt. He expects the pain. So if you like, God, where the fuck were you when I was being molested? When my mama was getting her ass? And it's okay. It's okay to have these emotions when you bring it to him because he
But
wants
what you're doing is you're letting it out. And he's going
that.
to heal that. That's all the brokenness, that he will heal that brokenness.
Exactly. And we got like I feel that in the church we make it too formal sometimes.
Yes.
I mean that it's like okay when you go to God you close your eyes you bow your head and you say our Father and our like bro, listen.
And they make it to where you have to do something to get something.
Uh,
And that's not what that's Old Testament. You had to do something to get something.
that's right.
New Testament, and the New Testament starts after Jesus died on the cross. So it's not Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. It's not that. It's when he died,
From that point,
and that's from that point and that on. That's the New Testament because he died for your sins. So you now no longer have to do something to get something.
normally I'm like at like 45 minutes I start to wrap it up. About an hour I'm like, all right, cool. But I'm getting way too much gems. Like where God is like, He's just pouring into this one. I'm telling you.
Well, we'll have to do more. I would love to do more and do
One-
some more. I was looking at the time too. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
goodness, my
I just
headphones are about to die, and
like I was looking at it, I was like, oh my gosh, we going over.
we
But
surely are. But it's been fun. It's
most
been fun, and
definitely.
then we can talk about some more stuff about the different things that I have going on, and we'll
Most
see where that goes. Like God will lead the conversation for that too.
Most definitely, most definitely. So just before we leave, I have three things that we always do. Is one, somebody in the situation you used to be in, that passed you, that one that was hurt and broken, downright busted and disgusted type thing. What would you tell that person when they're like, I don't see the end of the tunnel. I look and I see the darkness. I just see darkness all around me. What do I do?
Laura Daigle, look up, child. There's you have to faith. There's hope. Let's try to find the silver lining. There's hope. There is a way through this. There's always a way. Um, always, always. It might not seem like it. And then what song is that? King and Country. Oh no, then there's Corey Asbury, the the one song. Oh man, I can't remember it. Where he leaves, what song is that? Where he leaves the 99 for him?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I know
What
you're talking about. I don't know the song though.
I can't remember the name of the song. Reckless Love. Reckless Love.
Yes, that's a good.
Those types of songs gave me hope, gave me courage. They spoke to me. They allowed my emotions to pour out, even just by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not truly ever by yourself.
Definitely,
God's always with you.
most definitely.
So you got to start like just that. Really, just there's certain songs like what are you putting in? Like listen to those songs that allow you to feel, that allow you to uplift you, that allow you to feel the pain, allow you to hurt, allow you to be, um, allow all of that, and then surrender all of that, like to give that, to give it up, and say, God, here you go, like.
Facts, facts, facts. And put on a little bit lighter note now. What you doing,
Mhm.
man? What's the things that you like, two, three things, four, five things that you doing right now, moving forward, besides buying some chickens for some dinner?
I am playing women's professional football for the Texas Elite Spartans
Okay.
this year, this 2021 season.
And hold on, is that the
I
one that's like in like the booty shorts and like the tank top?
No, this
That
is
one?
real
I don't like
football.
that one. I don't like that one at all.
No, that's fake.
That's
That's that's bleh.
yeah.
No, this is real football, tackle football, full on NFL rules, full on tackle. Yep, full on tackle, helmets, everything. Um, so playing football. This year my daughter is mutton busting. It's her first season. We're getting into
What is mutton busting
mutton, but
for us city folk?
mutton mutton busting is a sheep. So basically, she gets on a sheep and she tries to hold on for at least 8 seconds. So it's the beginning steps of um, rough stock. So rough stock is your bronc ride, saddle bronc riding, bareback broncs, and your bull riding. So they start them off as kids, and you start off on sheep, then you move up to calves, and then you go to mini bulls, and then you go to bulls, and somewhere in there, you can also do bronc riding and saddle bronc riding as well
And
once you get
bronc
older.
is
Huh?
what is a bronc?
A big horse, a big bucking horse.
A horse.
Yes, it's a big bucking horse. So you have your bull riding, so the bulls
Yeah.
buck everywhere. Well, a bronc is a horse that's a bucking horse.
Oh my gosh.
And there's guys that, and then there's two types of bronc riding. So you have your saddle bronc riding, so they have like this tiny little saddle with a handle on it, and then you have your bareback where you're just, there's no
Like,
saddle. You
yes.
got a big old rope, and you just yeehaw,
Yeah.
say.
Oh
And
my
then those are
god.
called roughies. Those are your roughies because it's the rough stock. And then you've got your timies, which are all your other events, like your barrel racing, your team roping, your calf roping, your um, steer wrestling. I'm sure I'm missing one because I'm just going off
A lot.
real
Yeah.
quick here. Your breakaway roping, which is um, Jackie Crawford is, just, she was, I think, 6 months pregnant, and in the NFR cut her saddle horn off, zoop, and won. She amazing, amazing woman, um, and just brought breakaway roping to that. So yeah, there's quite
That's
a few, but those are all timed events and stuff like that. So
you got to be
yeah,
quick.
but we don't have a horse. We don't have a horse yet. And
Yeah.
so
Getting it.
that is something that we will work on. We're working on and praying on and stuff, for the both of us. And this is something that the both of us can do, because she can't play on a football field with me.
Well,
She,
I'm sure she's eventually
and she
going
can't.
to.
Yeah, well, no, I will not be playing football that long. But this is something that we can both do together. She can actually see me riding. She can see me going through struggles, and she can see how I handle things. I get the chance to be a living epistle to her through that. And by me being a living epistle to her, then our life becomes a living epistle for others.
Man, you should have like a YouTube channel where you like just show all this stuff. Like you would get views on days. I'm
Well,
telling
maybe you can help me out with that. I was
you. Oh,
actually thinking of
most
that. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know
yeah.
what I was
Like
doing.
there's these guys that I watch the Arms Family Farms, right? They just show their farm and show what they do on their farm. And they got like right now they got 500,000 views just showing what they do on the farm. And if you are doing football and your daughter's doing like this what did you say, this sheep riding and like you
Mutton busting. Yeah,
mutton
she's
busting,
radioing.
golly, like I'm
And then
telling
she
you,
has the play days where she borrows somebody's pony and she gets to do all like the little She gets to do the barrels. She gets to do like she ties goats and she ropes dummies, like the dummy roping and stuff. Like they
Yeah,
have a practice dummy for like roping and stuff. So
yo,
she does that.
I'm
So
telling you, you could definitely, you
all
guys
sorts of
could
things.
definitely,
We go
definitely
hiking. We go hiking. She has a little vest, so
like
I have
shepherd there,
my
right?
weighted vest. I hike slash run in my weighted vest, and I put 5 pound ankle weights on each ankle. And she has a little airsoft vest that I put a little tiny plate in. It's probably like 3 pounds maybe, but so she's got her own little plate in there that she requested. And then the other day we got her some 1 pound ankle weights, but she rides her balance bike. So she goes on the trails with me. And so that way it evens out like our running and stuff. And so she can be on the balance bike and she could take off, which makes me have to run to like keep
Yeah,
up and
yeah,
and stuff and everything. So we do that, and we just like to we call it the mama daughter duo adventures.
man.
And I just
You
try
keep
to we
that
go
shape.
camping. I try to get her out. I just try to get her out. We go camping. I want to go hunting. I don't know how to hunt. I would love to like
You're
go
a
to like one
Marine,
of these
man.
organizations.
I'm sure you feel.
No, but like actually learn how to like
Yeah,
actual go hunting, learn how to dress a deer so I can provide meat. But I also want to be able to teach her that, and be able to go out and do that
man,
safely
I love.
and with knowledge, and stuff. So if you hear of any like organizations or something like that,
Yeah,
I'd love to be able to do something like that. I want to teach her how to fish. We go camping. We do all sorts of like road trips and stuff. Yeah. So she
I
loves animals too. So we got we got a lot of things.
there's a
Prayer is in the works for God to really direct my path, so that way, because obviously I'm like,
like
woo,
everywhere,
woo, woo, let's do this. And it's like,
man.
okay, well, which one do I need to do more of? So
The
I'll
thing
get
that
established with the animals and I can figure out like how often we could leave to go camping. And we
yeah,
can go camping on our way to rodeos and, stuff like that.
you gonna do a lot.
Yes, it's fun.
Man,
But
there's a lot.
the best way to get your kids active is to be active with them. How are they supposed to learn if you're just like, you can't be lazy. You can't be a lazy parent and say, do this, because then they're like, oh, you're not serious, whatever. And then that's when they
Yeah,
start finding things to entertain themselves or to get them, and then that can lead into getting into trouble because they're doing it themselves, and you sitting there because you can't be bothered because you're tired or whatever. And I'm guilty of that from time to time. I'm like, oh, I just need to sit down,
yeah.
you know
Like
just
no,
want to sit down. And she's like bouncing off the walls. I'm like, okay, let's go. Because I can't sit here and be like, go outside. Because she's like, well, I want to be where you're
like fine. Let's go
at.
outside.
I'm like, okay, let's go outside.
Man,
But then there's times that I'm like, okay, we got to sit down. You got to learn to sit down and relax. Like, you want to go hunting? She's like, yes, I want to go hunting. I'm like, okay.
well,
So if you're gonna go learn, because you're that age where you got to start, but you got to start sitting down and calming down a little bit and
yeah,
stuff.
right.
So
That's true. That's
you
true.
gotta balance. It's all about balance. Gotta balance
Now,
it
where,
out.
where can everybody find you at, man?
I am on Instagram at Brolic Stokes. So that's Brolik
Hmm.
Stokes, Stokes. That's my Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's Crystal Brolic Stokes um, on on there. So you can find me at those two places.
Beauty,
And
beauty.
you can follow along on our adventures.
That's most that. Every time I look, there's something new, and I'm just like, my golly, gosh, what is this woman doing? Like, and it just makes me like, damn, I got to do something, huh?
And then I wanted to put this out there, like, feel free anytime to reach out to me. I don't like, you know me, you don't know me, you follow me for a while and then just have a question or something, or you just want to make a comment or something like that. Like that's fine. But I'm always here because I've been on the other side of it where I've always felt like I felt alone or I felt like nobody really truly cares or something. But feel free, like anytime you have a question, like, or you just want to say something or chit chat or not chat or something, like, there's somebody here. Feel free, reach out, say hello, you know. If you're gonna be mean, you can leave that somewhere else. You know,
Ain't that
don't come to me with it.
that-
but
the last
but
thing?
yeah,
Sorry. So the last thing I say is state your name and say I am a victor.
Crystal Stokes and Neela Stokes,
Hey,
and I, Neela, we, the mama daughter duo, are victors.
amen. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Have yourself a wonderful day, huh?
You as well. And I'll chat with you soon.
Most definitely, most definitely.